Hello guys, welcome back to Bayliner boys. So today, hopefully this is the last episode on restoring the outdrive. You've seen previously we've split it apart, replaced the water pump. So that's one of the biggest jobs done. We've drained the oil. And today's job is we're going to sand it all down, get rid of all this old paintwork, and then we've got some new paint to paint it with. That's basically like what do we call it, antifoul, but it's in black. So that's to go on. I've got some oil over here, some more gear loop, so when it's painted we can fill it back up, and then we'll put the yoke back on the top shaft with the new cross bearing, which is here. So yeah, that's today's job, and hopefully at the end of this will all be ready, done, to go back on the boat. The only thing we're not doing is a propeller, because we had a look at trying to repair that, but because of what it's made from, you can't bend it back into shape, so it just shatters, and also you can't really weld onto it either. So we're just going to do with it for now, and I'll probably get a new propeller at some point. So let's crack on. You might have noticed I've finally organised my workshop, because it was a tip before, which makes everything a lot easier, and it's less time consuming because we know where everything is. So we're going to use the angle grinder for this because it'll make light work of getting this paint up. And I'll use probably 120 grit because we don't want to overdo it and start shaving the metal work back. We're just taking the top layer of paint off. What I'm going to do now is fast forward it and get sanding. So we've just decided to set up an extractor fan because 30 seconds into that we're nearly choked to death. And I don't have any dust masks for some reason, so we just set this extractor fan up to help blow out all the crap. So I'll switch this on and crack on. Yeah, so we can see here, it's actually what we call pitting, or like corrosion. So here where it's smooth on the metal, that's where the paint's come down, but here's like the pitting and corrosion, which is why I wanted to sand it down and repaint it so I could get that full protection back on it. So we'll carry on, keep sanding until we're near enough all done, and then they're ready for painting. That's it. So the downside of having cool battery powered tools is they don't last very long, so we've got about half of it done and we now have to wait an hour for the batteries to charge. So in the meantime we'll refit the cross bearing and the yoke back onto the drive shaft. it was quite difficult finding the correct one, but here we have our brand new cross bearing.
Ta-da!
So difference in those two parts literally shattered. So yeah.
That's what all those little crumbly bits were in the
so these should come pre-greased, so that does. So I need to just put in the grease nipple, which is that there, I believe. Or is it this one? That's that one. I know it's been pre-greased, but because it's an open hole, I'm going to just add some more in. So we've got Quicksilver marine grease, 2,4C with PTFE, and it says specifically used for throttle and shift cables, linkages, prop shafts. So we're just going to put some more grease in here. I don't really have a smaller nozzle, so this is just going to be a case of just going in. There we go.
Lovely.
Now there is actually a grease gun tool that you can get. I don't have one of those, but it's basically what fits onto this little grease nipple. I might invest in one. And this is just going to screw into that hole. There we go. So that's in. I'm just going to nip it up very gently. That there will do. Don't want to do that too tight, because it'll just snap and then you've fucked it. You need a new one. And now we've got to put this back together in reverse to how we got it off. So what you've got is these little circlip clips, and if you remember when we took these out, they were a pain in the arse.
Yes, we had to hammer them, didn't we?
Yeah, they clip round there when they're in position. So what we'll do is we'll get the cross bearing first into the outdrive, and then we'll put the yoke in. Just make sure that in here is clean, free from any obstructions of debris. Put a little bit of grease around it as well, just to help. Hoping these are going to go in without an argument. And what I'm going to do is put it in with the grease nipple facing forward, just so it's easy to get to, should I wish to get to it again at some point. So the idea is we're going to take two of the bearings off, like so. Be very careful, if you drop them you're likely to knock all the bearings out inside, and then it's going to be a pain in the arse to get all that together. And when we get to this position, I'll do the bottom one first. So we're going to push that in. I'm just working out if it needs another little couple of taps. There we go, that should do it for us. Now spin it round and do the other side.
Quite often.
And I'm going to do the same with this, just a few gentle taps. She's there. Let's get the other retaining clip. mind.
Or not.
And there she goes, she's in.
Yes, look at that.
And then it's just to repeat the process for the yoke. Which is this bit, which we've cleaned up a little bit. I'm not getting a new one because it's too expensive. I'm just going to get off any corrosives or anything that might have just settled on there in the meantime of while it's been off. Because we want it to be relatively smooth, so we're not arm wrestling with it to go back on. So we're just going to put a bit more lube on this. And this is going to help to one, keep it almost like waterproof, and again to help us get the bearing back on. The same again, so you want to remove these two nice and gently. Make sure you put them somewhere they're not going to get knocked over. This is then going to go. Oh God for that. Right, I'm just going to slide them both over, just so it's holding it in position. Go on, push it on. Right, there we go. So same again, I'm going to gently tap, and hopefully that's one.
On.
That's one on.
Nice.
I'm going to do the same for the other side. Now, if you get your camera in here, you're going to be really careful here. So this little rubber bit, you can see it's on an angle. So what it's done is it's come off the seating when we've hammered it on, and that's what keeps all the grease in. So if you can, you want to sit it back onto the seating. It's probably not going to go because I've knocked it, so I'll knock it back in. But we want to make sure that it sits back flush. There we go, that looks like it's done. Last clip. Oh, thank you.
Right, so that's fully on then.
And that is how you put your prop shaft or your yoke, whatever you want to call it, cross bearing back together. And also this was what caused all the banging and issues, which is why we had to take the outdrive off in the first place, but now it's all back together. As I say, I will probably put a bit more grease in there if I can now, put it all together, and top up the rear one as well, because if you look here, the rear one's got a little nipple that you can fill up too. So I'll fill that one up, make sure they're both oiled up, lubed up, and then once this is sanded and painted, she can go on. When the batteries are charged, we'll carry on sanding and then we'll get to painting.
Nice.
So we'll come back to you when the batteries are done.
Nice.
Here we are, guys. I thought we'd seen enough sanding and grinding down, so this is it all now ready to be primed. I've got as much of the paint off as possible, in fact pretty much all of it. The black bits you can see is just corrosion. All I've used is the 120 sanding disc, and then just used some of these polishing pads and a wire brush just to get into the difficult bits. So that's that. Now we'll get it primed. So guys, before we paint, we want to make sure that this is clean. So you want to use some panel wipe and just wipe off all the residue once you finish sanding and everything. So I've already done that, and then we're pretty much ready to go. I suppose if you wanted to, you could mask up over these bits, but I'm just going to paint round them because I think it'll be alright. So we just need to mix this paint first, so I'll get that done. I'm just going to use a drill with a little mixing tool, get it all mixed up, and then we'll get it on. So this is grey primer, so we're going to get this on first into the outdrive, and then we're going to have 2 coats of this, which should be enough to seal it, and then once that's all dry we'll put the black antifouling on. So I'm going to use a roller for most of the application, and then just use a brush to get in the difficult areas. This stuff dries pretty quickly, so when you're not using it out of the tin, put it back on, put the lid back on. And now it's just a matter of cueing the music. So there's the first coat on, looking loads better already, but it definitely needs another one because you can still see little brush marks and stuff. So yeah, when that's dry, we'll stick another coat on, and then it'll be ready to smooth down and put the antifouling on. Happy with that. And we're back. We've now got 2 coats of primer on, and I think it looks pretty good. I've also just sanded it down a little bit with the little buffer pads I had before, just to get rid of any lumps and bumps, because I want it to have a nice smooth finish when we're done. What I've also done in the meantime is filled the oil up, because what I realised is once I painted over it, it'll create a little seal and I have to kind of snap it to open it back up. So I filled it up now, so that I can just paint over it and that's it, we can forget about it. So that's that, and I'm just going to repeat the same process for the antifoul. So I'm just going to open this up, give it a good steer, and then we're going to roll her on, and we're going to have 2 coats, and then that should be good to go. Right, let's crack on. And that is it, guys. The outdrive restoration is complete. So that's had 2 coats of primer on, and do you know what, it looks brand new. I'm absolutely chuffed with that. So what we'll do, guys, is if you have any questions or want to know what the products are that I bought, I will put links in the description below, and links to the pages where I bought them from. So if you fancy restoring your own outdrive, you can see now that it's doable yourself. So, and that's the whole point of this channel. So if you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and tune in for the next time, which will probably be removing the bellows and replacing them and servicing the shift cable and all that lot. So thanks for watching, guys. Please tune in next time. Peace out.